Hey guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and over there is Pascal Floor. How is it going, Pascal?
Good. How about yourself? It's Halloween when we're recording here.
It is Halloween, and we're just discussing how neither of us are really that big on Halloween. Apologies to our American followers. Although I don't know if it's just what's it called? A generalization that all Americans just are obsessed about Halloween and everything like that.
But this is how I learned it when I was little as well. So when I was watching stuff like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. So
yes,
everyone shout out to Cartoon Network. Follow us who can still remember that time. And there was always like a big fuss about that. So it is kind of, I don't know, in my mind that it is like that in the US, that everyone is making a big fuss out.
What cartoons did you watch? Do you remember what they're
Dexter's Laboratory. I think that was Dexter. Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Ren and Stimpy.
Oh yeah,
that was Cartoon Network as well. Was A Monster?
A Monster. I don't know what that one is.
Okay,
actually.
maybe that is Nickelodeon. Hey Arnold is also Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah. SpongeBob.
No, that was after my time actually. So when I started watching SpongeBob, I was 13 or 14 years old.
What was their Blue's Clues? Did you ever watch Blue's Clues? Do you remember that?
What is that?
It was it's for like really young. This is when Nickelodeon didn't exist in the UK, and this is when I fortunately went to America with like my family, and I was like, oh my gosh, they have Nickelodeon and stuff. We just watched Blue's Clues, which was just hilarious.
What about Rugrats? Was this?
Yes, Rugrats.
Well, I always kind of, because it's so long time ago, I can't really recall what was Nickelodeon and what was Cartoon Network, but Powerpuff Girls as well.
Oh yeah, Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network, I feel like was like the slightly older one, and Nickelodeon slightly softer and younger.
Yeah, that's true. Good times.
I'm trying to think of the one. I don't know if you watched it. I think Lyndon posted it up on his shout out to Lyndon Purcell on his story, and it was like the surfers, skateboarders, and they all have like longish hair, and I think that was Nickelodeon. I can't remember what that was called though, but
no idea.
What about one other one, Recess? Did you ever watch that?
No.
Okay.
Can't remember. The irony behind it is that I watched it during a time where I wasn't even able to speak English, right?
Yes.
So I was like, I don't even know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old during that time. So I don't even know. I was just watching the pictures, and most of the time, this is when it comes to cartoons, this is all that counts, right? And you can then figure out what is then being discussed or what the topic is.
Yeah, brilliant. And we still watch cartoons to this day.
Yeah, we do.
Just advanced in the comedy. Anyway, so enough cartoon talk. How's your week going? You're now in your overreaching week?
Yeah, I've just finished
quick.
Yeah, I finished my last training session here today, and so I went in, and this is funny enough because normally we speak about it, that sometimes you have days where you feel great, you go in and you think that the training session is going to be great, and then it turns out to be quite shitty, and vice versa. And today I went in and I thought that I'm going to be crushed. But I went into the gym, felt good, and then all of a sudden my performance just quickly declined. So I did the incline presses, which we talked about like last week, where the repetitions just declined super, super quickly. And also the same happened with my pulling movements. I was like, okay, I just need to drag my ass through this workout, and then I'm done for this mesocycle. So next week is the deload, and then we will start the contest prep.
And actually, I was going to ask off air, just because it came into my head, was there, I'm interested to hear, because you're not doing a maintenance period between now and then. Is that because you had maintenance relatively recently?
Yeah. So I even thought about maybe doing 2 weeks of a deload, just to get somewhat of that resensitization effect going. Maybe I will just throw it in. I'm uncertain about that. So this 1 week I could take that. It's feasible to take that. I'm not in a time rush or anything like that. So maybe I'm throwing that one in. But yeah, I just came out of a prima phase. So that's why I'm doing it that way.
The reason I ask is because my plan is very similar, because I had a prima phase Like I just finished one mass meso. I'm on another one. I had one just before that one before. So like a couple months ago, not even that. So I'm just putting in a deload and then like 2 weeks of maintenance volume. And then I'm going straight into my kind of hypertrophy and deficit. So yeah, I was just interested to hear. And I think a lot of people, I don't know, people set up rigid. I think it's easy to do so when you don't have a full understanding of like the principles and what they do, and people set up rigid guidelines, and I think they definitely work. But I think sometimes it's nice to hear about like the rationale behind why maybe you're not doing an extended primer phase after a hypertrophy phase.
And sometimes it's just like why there doesn't need to be a compelling reason for something sometimes, right? So yes, it would have been amazing if I would have started the contest prep right after the primer phase, but there was just like not the reason for doing that, right? So I then thought like, okay, let's go, or let's extend that hypertrophy block a little bit. Went into that, and now it's just the time where I think it's a good time to actually start the contest prep, but it would be foolish now to take that primer phase once again when I just had one recently. And sometimes it's just like, also when clients ask me, and this is something that Cliff Wilson even brought up in the seminar, that people always ask me for the advice and what is the secret. And to be fair, there's no secret. And sometimes I need to tell them like, I have no idea. I don't know. Right. And this is the same when it comes to certain things. It's just like either I don't know, or it's just my experience that speaks out of me. Right. And this is something that Daniel Kahneman also talked about in the books Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, when it comes to the two kind of parts of the brain where one is actually making the rational decisions and one is more like on an intuitive basis. That intuitive sense is also based on your past experiences. So if you have done something like 1 million times, for example, then most of the time you don't need to think about it like slowly, because you are just acting on that. And sometimes you don't even know why. Like a surgeon, for example, who just sees something and just acts on it. Or I don't know, a doctor who sees a patient and is absolutely confident that this is that disease, but he couldn't really tell you why. But this is just like, I just know it, like this intuitive sense. And this is basically most of the time stemming from something like experience. This is something that I also experience with myself when it comes to coaching. Sometimes a client asks me like, okay, why are we increasing the calories by 500 to get to the maintenance? How do you come to that conclusion? And I'm just like, I don't know. I just know, kind of, right?
This is something, actually, Cliff talked about that in the seminar as well, didn't he? Where he said his dad would take it, like his dad was some sort of tree surgeon or something along those lines. Where
tree surgeon.
I don't know exactly what he was like, some biology outside, and there were certain plants and he could identify the plants, and Cliff would ask, how does he know? And he was just like, I just know, and it's just experience. So I can see that completely.
And to just bring up the example of Cliff once again, when it comes to peaking, he already said like, sometimes I just know how many carbohydrates a certain individual needs without ever having peaked them, just because I can't really describe it, but something about their skin tells me that, which to you it just sounds like absolutely made up, but I do believe that this is something.
I think it's funny because obviously you never want to be that coach that's just like, your client asks you and you're just like, just trust me, I'm your coach. And that's obviously not what we're saying. And I think, but if you don't know the answer and it's just off your experience, I think that's fair enough to say, like, I don't know exactly why, it's just based off my experience. I think there's just, you don't want to do it in a way that was like, you don't question me.
Yeah, and I mean, this still can turn out that you're completely wrong with your intuition. But I think most of the time you are onto something when it comes to that.
I'm just gonna be sending Cliff like a load of nudes and be like, what's my carbs? What do I need?
Now everyone is doing that. Send him a picture of you, like, what carb intake do I need for being fully peaked?
He must receive so many nudes.
Yeah, that must be very weird. especially for Haley,
full of glutes.
but Haley actually said like she got used to something like that, right? With weird or random people sending him stuff. Right. But yeah, how was your week, by the way?
So yeah, just finished deloading. The only kind of note things was I got some blood work done in that deload week, which I haven't had the results from yet. But it's really cool. I think I told you where with MediChecks, they now have a service where I think they're getting rid of, or at least they have got rid of a lot of the finger prick stuff, because I think so many people screw up the samples or they just often error. So I think they're kind of getting rid of that. But they have a service where a kind of person will come around and take the blood from you, and then you just mail it as normal, which is really convenient because it costs not much more. And like the time it would have taken to go and get it done and go to one of their clinics and everything like that would have cost me more in like value than having the person come around. So he just came around, took some vials of blood. So I'll be interested to see how that comes back.
Very cool.
It's like the ultimate performance vitamin or something. I don't know what it was. It was like 150 quid or something on sale.
Just out of curiosity, or was there any intention behind that?
So partly curiosity. I think getting blood work isn't a bad idea like every 6 months. I think getting a profile isn't a bad idea. And I'd like to do that just like you get an MOT for your car or something, just as a bit of a checkup for myself, because I can afford it and I care a lot about what we're doing here. So it'd be good to do that. So partly that, and also because I hadn't been feeling well. Like I got sick and then the blood results came back from the doctors, didn't show anything. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a big panel and see what things are saying. And I have a feeling... I have a feeling cortisol is going to be higher than it should, given my position, big surplus, haven't dieted for ages, and in a deload week, although lagging, overreaching fatigue potentially could have been there. But it was taken on the Friday, so right at the end of the deload. And then I have a feeling my testosterone is also going to be lower than it should be, considering, because I've only just noticed my libido has just not been what it had been in the past. And I think as a male... Maybe. As a male, at least, I find that to be a very easy thing to you just know it. Like, you know if it's up or down or where it is. It's
pun intended.
It's so unintended. Up or down. Hard or soft. So, yeah, I'll be intrigued to see how they come back. But I don't think they would be as good as I would like them to be. And that just makes me think that in terms of biofeedback, when I'm feeling this kind of sensation that I'm feeling with like the extreme satiety and really not wanting to feed up, it might be an indication that I shouldn't keep pushing. And I might need to edge down when I get to this sort of position, which will be good for future off seasons and maybe for clients as well if they ever get to where I've got. I will say I've not really had many clients who have got to where I am in terms of having to force feed so much.
Neither have I. I mean, it's very interesting though, because what you're basically saying is that most of the time people are aware of that a cutting environment is a stressful environment. But I don't think that many people are aware of that a gaining environment can be such a big stressor as well, where this is just like chronically overfeeding yourself or force feeding yourself is causing that big of a stressor that it could possibly even be detrimental to further push yourself.
Yeah, that's what I hope it's not. Like in reality, it'd be good if it's not, but it will explain quite a bit in terms of how I've been feeling. Because I just feel like the past months I've had fatigue that is excess to what it should be, just generally just feeling a little bit more fatigued than normal. And
have you ever been that heavy?
No. So 190 pounds was the heaviest I'd ever got to before. So anything above that. And I'd... in previous, like over the last year, I got to like 195 and then I got to like 198 and I think I touched 200 and then did a mini cut. So this is the longest I've been at I've been at 200 for like 2-3 months now, solid. And I actually have just creeped over the last couple of days where I'm at like 201. So
what does your BMI say at that point?
I'll definitely be overweight. I don't think I'm quite obese.
Something like 27 or so?
I don't actually 28. Know.
I mean, this is, we've talked about it in the past, right? That BMI is for just general health, not even a bad indicator, right? The heavier you are, not even independent of whether you're carrying more muscle mass or fat mass. it is a strain on your system, especially the cardiovascular system.
Yeah, so at least, I mean, I'm going to find it when I see you doing and prepping, at least you don't share too much, so I won't feel so jealous. But if you do end up sharing more, which I actually encourage, obviously.
Yeah. The leaner I'm getting, the more I start to share, I think. Because, like everyone.
But as soon as I start seeing you sharing like dieting and prep stuff, I will feel very, I won't, obviously I'll stick to my plan, but that's when I'll be like, oh my God, I cannot wait to diet. But for me, it's still going to be a month or so until I start actually being in a deficit.
I am very, once again, I think I said it the last 3 or 4 episodes that I'm very excited to actually get started, because I've never looked that good at that body weight at the moment, which is good, right? Which is always something that you are striving for. And even though that the 2017 at least and beginning of 2018 wasn't as good in regards to training, the rest was, and I think that it is showing up itself. And let's see what my skin also allows for. I've seen people with loose skin actually getting into great conditioning. And I do hope that it isn't kind of, I don't know, masking a little bit of the conditioning, but it could always turn out that it is, right? But I'm of course not betting on that. And yeah, I'm very, very excited to actually just see what is underneath it all.
Your loose skin's around the stomach, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
A lot around the stomach area, and also, of course, love handles. It's always, so when I'm sitting, it always flaps over my jeans or the pants, and it looks like as if I have chronically a belly and stuff like that, because just the gravity is pushing it down, and thus all the weight of the upper body is kind of sitting there. And also here around the chest is a little bit, and that's why when I bend forward, for example, it always looks like, I don't know, I have like fatty titties or so, right? Like they get sticky and pointy when I bend forward, because the skin is hanging downwards. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? I can't change it. This is my youth, or my youth haunting me. Being overweight there and not having the genetics that the loose skin is actually rebuilding itself, but it is like scar tissue. Yeah, it is.
I was going to say, I think at least around the waist, it's not covering, it shouldn't hopefully be covering like striations and things. So the chest, maybe that will tighten up. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting.
I don't know. I'm very curious about that myself, especially when you're getting to those very lean levels, whether it is enough muscle mass and also that the skin is compensating enough to actually have that detail showing or not. I don't know. We will find out. And don't know. We'll have to see.
It's kind of, for me, it's a little bit scary, because I think it's the first, when now I'm at this weight, for a while I was holding on to like chest striations, even tricep striations. I had held those for a while. And now, like, if I tense any muscles, I'm like, nothing's there. It's all just a cloud.
Story of my life.
So I think it's scary because, and I think a lot of people underestimate literally how much fat there, like if people look at me, they're like, oh yeah, you're lean. Like, you're not too far away from stage. I'm like, no. I'm like 35 pounds up from stage. That's a lot of fucking weight that I need to shift. So I'm kind of excited. It's like unwrapping a present.
Are you aiming? So because there was a question about, what's your plan? So Niklas Rausch, by the way, we can already ask that question because we are at that topic. He said, like, did you already plan out your next competitive season?
Yeah.
And in the same breath then, are you expecting to step on stage at the same stage weight? So 165?
So yes, I have planned it out, and I've planned out where my body weight hopefully will be at certain stages. So I'll initially diet from 200 down to the low 180s to get like 20 pounds off or so. Actually, I should be able to get 20 pounds off. So no, I think I want to get down to the high to mid 170s would be great if I could be around 180 anyway. So I'll get to there, hold that, and then I should only have about 15 pounds, which would be my previous stage weight, to get off. However, my lowest weigh-in was like 160. So I've kind of planned to need to get down close to that weight.
No.
So at the moment in August, I think I'll be around like the high 160s/170 to qualify. I'm hoping that I'll be lean enough with 5 pounds to be able to lose before then finals, which would be, I think it's another month away or something to before then.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's
nothing
kind of the
more
plan.
to add then. That is the initial plan, at least.
Yeah, I'm like we were talking off air. Part of me is like just put in more time, and I think the good thing is, although I don't want to take them away, I do have diet breaks built into, like at the end of each deload, I still have diet breaks built in there, and I have a 2-month maintenance phase between the first diet and the second diet. So it's like if there needs to be some time taken away, I probably can afford to. I think I've put in enough buffer there just because it's like more than necessary in terms of the buffer of diet break and having maintenance periods. If I really need to squeeze out some extra time, I can take like a good few weeks away.
Yeah. Same with me, I think. I hope. I don't know.
Because it's tempting, isn't it? Just to like, why not give yourself infinite time and just keep dieting forever? But like we spoke again off air, it's not a free thing to be doing. Every week that you're dieting is another week of additional stress. It's another week.
I like your analogy about you are basically on fire.
Yeah.
All right.
Even with refeeds, diet breaks, they're not putting the fire out. You're still like in a long-term deficit and leaner than you should be. No. So there is a middle ground to not too short and aggressive a prep to not too long and slower prep where you can meet in the middle. And this is where it's a little bit like chess. You have to have some strategy and things there involved. And I don't think many people appreciate that. I think people can just think, oh yeah, once you diet, you can just keep dieting until you're lean enough. It's like, well, if you diet for 2 years, you're going to feel like shite and your physique won't look good for it. So we've seen it. People have burnt themselves out from dieting just too long. Yeah,
this, and then it makes the transition into the off season just so much harder, so much harder. And this is something I think that many people don't really think about, because there was a time where these long preps have been promoted and pushed very, very hard. But from what I've seen and experienced, it's just like the longer you prep for, the harder it will be like after the prep. And thus, it's like you said, finding the middle ground where it's aggressive enough so that you're not burning out, and also not slow enough so that you're not making things unnecessarily harder there as well during the prep, but especially also after the prep.
Yeah, unfortunately. And like you actually rightly, bodybuilding is a long-term game, and you think all the time that you're prepping for that season, that's time taken away from future muscle growth for future seasons if you want to. And I'm not at the point in my career where I can say, like, I've got all the muscle that I'm ever going to carry and I can just like stay lean and diet down for shows and it doesn't matter because like I've got all the muscle I've got. It's like, well, no, there's important things to do, and also like life quality and business and everything like that. Like we have a lot we want to achieve next year. So if one of us is like not stubborn and just like, no, I'm just going to keep dieting forever, like it's just not going to be a good idea.
It's funny because I have one client, she's right now preparing for the intelligent strength course, or basically she's in it already, and they have like a 2-part thing that all the participants need to do. First is a competitive diet. Second then is like meeting some strength goals. Right now we are basically prepping her, and we needed to take it quite aggressive and act like as if this is kind of a contest prep, right? Like we had a specific deadline and we need to get to that body weight. There's no like other show that we can pick from. We needed to get there, and that also meant that we need to make adjustments right away. Right? And that of course sucks and it's hard, but it taught her so much. And this is also something I told her, you learn so much from this experience already for yourself, how you react to certain things, and also you got a slight glimpse of what it feels like to actually prep for a show, right? And this is not even like into shredded conditions. This is just like meeting a specific deadline and losing a certain amount of weight in that deadline. And as she then came back to me, I was always like considering stepping on stage. And after having done that, I don't think that I will do that, simply because of I value and prefer other things in life more than feeling that way and pushing myself that hard. And this is, I think, very, very valuable to actually acknowledge for oneself, right? That doesn't mean that you are weak or anything like that. This is just like an experience that you got from the dieting experience. And this is also why I think that dieting is a skill in it for itself, because it teaches you so much. And I even had it in the past with one client as well, that he was going through a diet that was relatively long, just because we needed to lose a little bit more weight. And he then basically came back with the same conclusion for himself, that he just likes other aspects so much that he couldn't see himself prep in the future, even though that he thought that he would like to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It just does require a whole next level of commitment to get to. Basically, I think whenever you're pushing past settling points, which is you certainly are doing when you're getting to stage condition, it just to break that barrier where your body just does not want to go, it will fight you tooth and nail. And sometimes that sacrifice and the way you feel is not worth it. And I think some people embrace that and enjoy it in some ways, and other people absolutely hate it. And I can understand that hate for it, absolutely. And I think I would hate it if I ended up trying to do it frequently. And this is why we can only do it every now and then, because you kind of forget how bad it is.
Absolutely.
Should we get to questions?
Yeah,
we already answered one. So it's my turn. So
I'm curious to see how you pronounce that first name.
I was going to pull out the supporter questions first.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Because I won't be able to pronounce that. But, is there a Russian name or something there?
Yeah, but you can't even pronounce that first name as well. No. We even had that last week.
So this is from Ryan Beaver. Have
sorry.
I missed one?
No. I thought that Andrew is the first supporter there, but no, you're totally correct. That is Ryan.
So we have Ryan Beaver. He said, to both of you, what is your favorite pose to hit and why? And does it change during bulk and prep? Yes, I am discreetly forcing you to relay what you like about your own physiques. Alternatively, if you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself?
So first and foremost, with the second question, I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe it's a trick question or so. Maybe it is something like a psychology question that then reveals something about you. If I were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? I don't know. There are very, very delicious hot dogs out there, but I also so there's a Japanese hot dog. It's not really a restaurant, kind of small boutique here in Berlin, and that was not tasty at all. There was just like too much going on. So it's the same with a pizza. I know that many people don't like how I pronounce pizza, but bear with me. When it comes to margarita is the gold standard of when a pizza chef is good or not, right? Because it just has like minimalistic ingredients, and if he messes up, then it tastes crap. And if that tastes good, then you know he's a good pizza chef. But
Pizziola are they called or something?
Yeah, Pizziola. Oh, didn't know that. And when you just throw all the ingredients on that, right, then you're just kind of masking your capability of doing and creating good pizza with all the ingredients. And that was actually what happened to that hot dog, because there was just like so much junk on that. There was just like flavor overkill. And yeah, so when I'm a normal hot dog, I think I would even eat myself just to give it a try.
I was what you've reminded me of is cakes, in terms of like Charlotte loves a cake that's just got, I don't know, you see the cakes with like M&Ms on them and like flakes and like all this shit, and I'm just like, I hate those cakes. Like, just eat a packet of M&Ms. Why do you need them on a cake?
Yeah.
I think it ruins the cake. So it's hilarious that you said that.
It's the same when, and this is something I was kind of messing with like a year or 2 years ago, when Halo Top came out in the UK. And
Oh, yeah.
everyone, the foodies, they had a halo top, and they added a lot of toppings, like, I don't know, an entire piece of white chocolate on top of it, with sauce on top of it as well, and some M&Ms or something like that, right? Where it's just like, okay, so what's the purpose behind then using a halo top for this? Doesn't make sense. So you're using a low-calorie ice cream, and then you're just adding bunch of shit on top of that. Why not just go with the Ben and Jerry's then after all?
Each to their own, but I completely see that. maybe a vanilla halo top I could kind of see, because it's so it's vanilla halo top salty, isn't it?
I have no idea.
I haven't had it in ages.
I think halo top is one of the most overestimated things there is. I can't even put it to words in regards to why they are still on the market, because every halo top I had so far was just like tasting like crystals. You know what I mean? When
it's not
ice,
creamy.
Yeah, it's not creamy at all. I rather go then with a, I don't know, low calorie Ben & Jerry, which is still like 300 calories more, but it still tastes good. Or other alternatives such as the Oppo ice cream. Let me tell you that. The Oppo ice cream. I think it's, what is it? Belgian? No. Colombian hazelnut chocolate or so. That actually tastes very good, and it's creamy.
I was obsessed with halo tops for a period of time, and that's when I think back, I don't remember thinking I was diet fatigued. I was fucking really diet fatigued. I remember just buying as many as I could from our Tesco whenever it had there, and checking every time. And actually I'd leave Charlotte and walk back because I was like, I want to make sure it's still frozen.
We deviated a lot from that question,
yeah, we did.
But just to end this with as well, when you take, if it fits your macros too far, and this is something that happened to me in the past, that I was having a pint of ice cream each and every single day for a while, just because I couldn't make it fit my macros. And a pint of ice cream, something like the American ice creams such as Ben & Jerry's, is always like 1,200 calories or so. I mean, come on, eh? This is actually going too far then.
Yeah, I agree. On the hot dog question, I'm thinking I wouldn't eat myself. I would do similar to, I'll try not to go too off track. You know, Pickle Rick?
Yeah.
Do a hot dog version of Pickle Rick, and go and find some rats and get their arms and legs, and then I can actually be a functional person in a way. A functional hot dog.
A functional hot dog, yeah.
And then I'd eat other hot dogs.
Mm-hmm. Cannibalism.
That is cannibalism.
Yeah, so
favorite pose.
The favorite pose. Front double bicep, more in the classic style, where the other leg is a little bit further behind. You're still tensing or slightly squatting down with the other leg in front of you, and then hitting the front double biceps. This is, I love that, at least because I don't know what it is, but I can flare my lats out quite nicely, and just looks good and feels good. Other than that, when it's more like a classical pose for normal open bodybuilding, it would probably be back double biceps.
Interesting. I think my contest prep pose would be the crab, just because whatever happens in my off season, it doesn't look that great, but when I get shredded, it all of a sudden, like all my delts and like everything just looks ridiculous. I don't know why. And my traps, the way they insert, and they're quite big anyway, they end up looking like crazy. So probably that. But in my off season, like favorite pose, probably like a side chest or side tricep.
Yeah.
It's funny you said front double bicep, because that must be my worst.
And the funny thing is, because when you brought up the crab pose, I was just like, this is most likely the worst position for me. Because when I do it, I look just tiny and unimpressive. And also what I just described with bending forward, my titty skin is actually hanging down. And it looks awful on me.
Yeah, but for me, front double bicep, it's just, I think off season, hopefully it will look better when I'm lean, because my waist will actually come in. But at the moment, I have to be honest, my front relaxed, front lat spread, front double bicep. And I hate to say I hate them, but I'm really not satisfied with how they look for me, and I would do anything to try and improve them. And that's partly why I haven't said it before, but my current training, I'm prioritizing quads and back just to make sure that however much I can improve those poses I have. And I also I want to invest in a posing coach, a local one to me, or at least go and travel to one. Jeff was great, but try and find one that can maybe just tweak my poses a little bit. Yeah, make them look a little bit, do anything I can in that regard, because that's kind of like something in your control that you can definitely make better. And I know Andy, what's his name? Last name, I've forgotten his name. Andy Chappelle. Well, no, not the artist. So Andy Chappelle, but yeah, he is an artist. He hits his poses in certain ways, and I just really like how he's tweaked them slightly to his physique, and I think that's very clever. And because those poses aren't my best, I'd love to find ways of hitting them so that they just look that much better on me. So anyway, should we go to the next question?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is from Andrew, and I always get Andrew's last name wrong, so I just call him Andrew the Beast, the vascular beast. How do you get grainy muscle like me? I tell people it's like veins, it's genetics, or can you get that dry graininess some other way?
Yeah. But I need to, go ahead and answer that question, because I was somewhere else with my mind right now when you brought it up. Like, nothing in a sexual manner, come on, calm down, but more so like, come on, Andrew, step off your high horse.
I thought that's why. I know I did actually think it was because he was like, how'd you get like me?
yeah, exactly.
Graininess is an interesting one, because when I know what he means when it's like how the skin looks, and it kind of looks like grainy. It kind of looks very like the skin's very thin and the muscle is very full. And I imagine it's just a combination of low body fat with like being very full in terms of like glycogen's very full. You've got a pump. I think maybe there's something to do with like muscle maturity there, but what is muscle maturity? Like, I don't think anyone really knows. We just say it as if it's like a thing. But I think when you get more mature as a trainee, you potentially can get leaner and leaner, and so it just looks that much more grainy, because you see some junior physiques and younger physiques, and I think they just aren't as lean, so it looks a bit softer, like as if you have like baby fat and then you get rid of that and then you're like dry and grainy. So I think it's just having a good water balance. You haven't got much water kind of subcutaneously, and you're nice and full and pumped, and you're lean. I don't think there's probably much more to it.
I think that's it, actually. There are some people where it's just like, even on Instagram posts where they are compressing the pictures and it's not as sharp and high resolution, right? We just see like, holy shit. Like Steve Laureus is someone where you're just like, his legs are so grainy, it's unbelievable. And this is already on those pictures, right? So yeah, some have it, some don't, I think. And the older you're getting and the longer you've been in that game, I think the more likely it is that it could occur, but it's of course not a guarantee that it will ever be on your physique.
I think of someone like John Meadows.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know if there's anything to this, but anecdotally, and I don't say that I have a lot of anecdote here because I don't follow a ton of geared lifters, I find maybe someone who's on gear is more likely to get that grainy look. And I don't know if there's anything to that. I don't know if you would say the same. I don't see as many grainy natural competitors. It's not quite shredded, but not necessarily kind of grainy.
Sure, I've seen much more enhanced athletes that have that look, but maybe it's also just because this is more widely shared, those physiques that natural athletes are. So it could be that it's just like an environmental bias here where Instagram is showing you those big guys and you're just like more so perceptive to or susceptible to actually seeing those.
Okay, so we have the name I can't pronounce, the Russian name. I have actually no idea, like not even the first inkling of how you'd pronounce that.
No, neither do I.
But I love Russian accents. They scare me, so...
I do as well.
Hey, Revive team. Incredible content lately, as always, actually. Keep up the awesome stuff coming our way. Thank you very much. Any recommendations on calorie intake and macronutrient allocation during a deload in a mass macro cycle? Less carbs and more fat/protein due to the significantly lower training volume and lower energy demand. Also, any nutrient timing changes or just keep calories same for the first half of the deload, maintenance calories for the second half, and macros a bit looser. Cheers. P.S. Steve, your interview on the Macabolic podcast about your 2-year off-season finally made me embrace massing. Awesome interview. Thank you. Oh, amazing.
Very cool. Thank you very much, by the way, for the support. And my approach is twofold. So first, not change anything at all. Because of the demands of the last week of the overreaching block, because it leads so much into the deload still, and you don't want to take away the nutrients when they are most requested or demanded. Thing is, though, that for some clients, I actually do the other approach that you brought up, and that is like first half of the deload, keep the calories high, second half of the deload, bring them to about maintenance, maybe a little bit above that, but that's basically it. Just due to the things that you said, and that in simplistic terms, just like due to the energy demands and adaptations that are still taking place.
Cool. Yeah, mine's the same. If they, in that final couple of weeks, they've been maybe a bit behind their rate of gain or something like that, then I'll just keep them where they are, because I'm like, well, they need that extra kind of make up for those extra kind of calories. Maybe they haven't been quite getting into that surplus, but a lot of the time I do the way he proposed in terms of carry on for the first half, second half is a bit looser, down to nearer to maintenance. So yeah, awesome. Next question is from Martin Nordmark Kumaru, or Martin Kumaru. Bit of a I feel like that's an RP Plus guy. I feel like it is. I recognize Kumaru.
Martin Kumaru.
We should start just taking the piss out of everyone's name, shouldn't we? Yeah. I don't think I've got the charisma and the ability like Mike has to try and do this. He always
brings up the craziest stories where I'm just like, what? Where does he even come from with this? I mean,
his mind is a mystery. Bit of a random question, but when do you consider someone to not be natural anymore? Would it be as soon as they take anything whatsoever that gives them a performance benefit, or would what they take have to put them past natural levels? As an easy example, do you consider someone on proper TRT going from low test to maybe 800 nanograms per deciliter to no longer be natural, or even though they are well within natural levels? I have seen people argue for different sides, so I was wondering what your opinions are. Thank you.
So first and foremost, of course, when you're a competitive athlete, then my opinion or Steve's opinion doesn't really matter, because it's just the rules of the federation that you have then to commit to. And they have a strict guideline when it comes to TRT and stuff like that. Independently of that, I don't think that this is necessary enhancement then, when it's just for the sake of bringing you back into normal levels, because you're not doing it for the purpose of going beyond super physiological levels and being in that physiological range. It doesn't really matter. Sure, you have fluctuations through the day, but we also know from the scientific literature that these aren't really important. Right? I mean, those fluctuations going from the low end of the spectrum to the high end, and once again to the low end, these are normal hormonal fluctuations throughout the day. But if you're outside of those ranges, so very much below, I think TRT is very much necessary, just due to the health, your healthy situation or health situation. Because, I mean, I was secondary hypogonadal, and I can tell you this, it is awful, right? And going then, pushing you into those normal physiological ranges, I don't think that this is then an enhancement. You're not gaining more than other people would. Thing is, once again, my opinion doesn't matter. And I also think that if the regulatory system in some federations would be too loose on that end, in regards to, we are allowing people that are on TRT, people could probably easily misuse that and take it to their advantage, especially in a country such as the UK, where it's easy to actually take anabolic steroids because the legal system allows for that. I think that people could easily go down that road and take massive advantage of that. Like in the off season, I don't know, when they are then getting tested, testosterone levels are maybe a little bit higher or so, and they could like say, I don't know, probably there's something like a gray zone there, which always could be then taken to their advantage. And thus, I think allowing for that would probably not make much sense. So I think that the regular system is probably a good one.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. From the get-go, it's what's natural to us doesn't matter if you're a competitor. It's what's natural to their regulations. And then in regards to what he's explained there, I think so long as the only way, and I agree completely with you, the only time I would be like, it's giving you a competitive advantage is when someone is dieting, their testosterone is going to drop anyway. So if you're using it to then keep you higher than you normally would be, that's the only time, which is why I think what the MPA and the UK DFBA did for me, because I took TRT after my accident, was really kind, because they said that I could compete so long as I passed the polygraph, and essentially said, did I ever take like testosterone replacement therapy for competitive reasons or for like enhancement, or did I take it essentially for health? And I took it for health reasons, and I had doctor's notes and things saying that it never went above physiological ranges and things like that. But it is a bit murky. So the BMBF have a 7-year drug-free rule. So if you've taken it 7 years ago or like 8 years ago, you can now compete no matter what it was. And again, I don't know how I fully feel about that, because like some stronger steroids and things like this obviously have a long lagging effect. And once you've built the muscle, maintaining that muscle is probably quite like much more comfortable, and I think that's going to give you a competitive advantage. So it's a tricky one, it really is.
I mean, to just bring it down, if you're taking TRT, you're taking some external substance, and thus you're not natural anymore. Basically, it doesn't matter whether your normal physiological levels are outside of that normal physiological range, because that means that this is your normal state at the moment, right? And yeah, just to really be simplistic about that and take that term like it is, then you're not natural anymore.
Yeah.
Even if you're bringing yourself back into normal physiological range.
Yeah, my position with it's just such a wildly unique, strange situation in that it brought me to normal levels. I then came off, and I've been able to sustain normal levels. So it still stresses me to this day that I think, oh my gosh, like what if sometime it, for whatever reason, is going to mean that I can't compete naturally? And to me, it doesn't seem fair, but if that is a rule that stands, it's just like, well, you've taken TRT, you're no longer natural. It's like, well, okay, shit. It plays on my mind sometimes. I try not to think about it, because to me, I am natural and I've never done anything. It's kind of like, I don't know, wearing a bandage for a period of time for a cut to heal, and then I took it off and I've been fine. It's not quite the same, but yeah, it's something that plays on my mind. But I'm thankful that the organizations, to my knowledge, the way they're running the polygraph is fair for me, because they're asking the question, have I ever taken anything that's banned to like enhance my performance?
Didn't really think about that, but yeah, there's definitely something to that, especially because yes, you've been unnatural during that time of recovery, but then afterwards you are natural because it helped you to get into those natural levels, right? It's the same as if someone has been an alcoholic for a period of time, right? And that's a bad example, because people are saying like, okay, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. But yeah, forget about that. I just wanted to bring up that example, but yeah, it is a good one.
But I guess at least I have the comfort knowing, because the BMBF have the 7-year drug-free rule, I know I haven't taken it now for 7 years. So at least I definitely am okay for the BMBF. I've had a polygraph with the MPA and I failed it with the way they asked the question the first time. And I explained, and I said yes to the question, because in my eyes I had, I can't remember exactly. We did the podcast on it at the time, and then they did it another time and I passed. It's crazy though, because I then looked into polygraphs a little bit and the way they work, and they're not very reliable at all. No. And if you believe something enough, then you'll pass, because you won't do the things that the polygraph is looking for. And if you're nervous enough and worried enough just about anything, and if you might just be an anxious person, then you'll fail. And it's kind of like, woof.
I mean, we've talked about it in that one episode where I also stated my opinion about polygraph testing. And in my opinion, it's a shit show. This is like believing that, I don't know. This is not what I'm saying because that would go against someone's beliefs. But there's a reason for why that isn't being used in our justice system anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's definitely not our reliant source and information. Right? And it is, I'm trying to bring up an example, but I really can't think of the one I was thinking of, but that would offend too many people. And this is something that I don't want to do.
The tooth fairy? Someone believes in the tooth fairy.
Yeah. So something like where people are thinking about or believing that something exists when there actually is no proof for that, right? And that is the same here. They are relying on a flawed system, and that this is then still being used in something like bodybuilding is a mystery to me. Even though that maybe it keeps people away, right?
Yeah, but it's a deterrent.
Yeah, but for those who are natural, right? There are probably cases like this who are natural, who are going in there, who are then nervous and who are flagged, and they can't compete. I think it's just because it's such a flawed system, it shouldn't be in there because it's an unreliant source. It's just what it is.
And I think they also, for a lot of the WNBF shows, I think they normally blood test or piss test. I don't know if it's a blood or piss. Do everyone there. Again, you can get that out of your system and everything. It's just straight. It's. I think if someone if they wanted to compete in a natural show and they were taking drugs, probably could do it. But it's like they'd have to go out of their way to do that. And is it worth doing that? I don't know. And then I've heard. Yeah, I don't know. Even sometimes you can almost, and it's a terrible thing to say, you can sometimes tell when someone isn't natural and when someone is, but you also can't use that because that's just that's more unreliable than using a polygraph.
The natty or not talk.
Or maybe there's just some people you're just like, well, you didn't even place, so it doesn't matter if you're natural or not. It doesn't worry us.
I think right now it more acts like a tool, to deter people. And I
understand it.
I understand it, but I also don't think that it's correct because then when it's tested that there is being put maybe too much faith into the readings, when in reality those readings are just like fairy tales that have been brought up because, I mean, they're just picking up a signal that is not like giving insight in what actually happened. It's not like Minority Report where you could see something that is about to happen in the future or something like that.
And unfortunately, there are ways to pass them. And
absolutely.
And I mean, I'd never want to try using a method because it's just, you don't need to if you're not like lying. You wouldn't need to try one of the things. So I would never like try and do them. But I imagine people doing, they must work for some people.
Absolutely.
And then there's people, if you believe something enough, like I was like with the tooth fairy, if you really believe, like when you're a child, if you did a lie detector stuff, like, do you believe in the tooth fairy? Well, probably when you're between the ages of like 1 and 3, you do. And then after 3, you don't. And it's kind of like, well, if you believe something enough, it doesn't matter what the reality is, you could potentially pass it. Like
like the question then there, like, did the tooth fairy come at night and give you some money in exchange for your teeth? And the child would say yes, and it would turn out to be correct, right? And holy shit,
and now the tooth fairy exists.
The polygraph actually proved that.
I think it's just when I've just heard people say something like, "Oh, I am natural. I just take whatever." Like something like it's not creatine. It's something that's actually would make you enhanced. So anyway, it's a subject that's a little bit close to my heart because of everything that has happened in my past. Yeah. And yeah, it just is interesting. Anyway, shall we get to another question? I've blabbed on enough of that. So we have Kalin Tiku. I don't know if that's how you'd pronounce that. He said, Mena Henselmans has an article about how bodybuilding makes your muscles longer if stretched till the end of the range of motion. I have found most men to have incredibly tight hamstrings, yet when I look in the gyms at most jack guys that have a history of doing RDL, they can get really deep. What's your experience with this? Can you significantly improve hamstring mobility with RDLs alone?
I think yes, it is the saying, especially also when it comes to squat. If you want to be better at squatting, squat, right? I do remember when there was a time where my mobility, ankle mobility, such as also the hip mobility, was just so shit that I couldn't get into a proper position. Once you're going through these repetitive motions, like on a continuous basis, right, then you will get there at some point, right? Especially through loaded stretches and dynamic movements. When it comes to static stretching, even that has shown to work and improve your mobility when you're doing it continuously. And also at some point when you really want to enhance your mobility, you need to do it like a lot, right? But there's enough proof to show that this is actually the case. I mean, artists, right, who are in a circus, for example, or just like Olympians, for example, who are very, very mobile, who can even do that in a loaded position when they are hanging off the rings or so. It is possible.
Yeah, I have nothing really more to add. Yeah. I think Menno is pretty much on the money, and he normally is.
Yeah.
Sweet. Next question is from... Oh, how do you say this name?
Just to one more thing, that bodybuilding makes your muscles longer. I'm not entirely certain. The first thing is stretched till end of range of motion. I don't think that the muscles are getting longer.
No,
because when you take a look at what muscles are, right, myosin and all that kind of stuff, then I don't think that they are just like a rubber band that are getting stretched like over the long term. Acutely, yes, it is kind of that case. This is also what static stretching is then causing, right? That acutely, it's like a rubber band that you pull apart because of the heat. It is then a little bit looser, right? But it's not that the muscles over time actually get longer. That it as if it's a pasta that is then being created, right? Where it's just like a small piece at first, and then you're just rolling it and pulling it out, and then all of a sudden it's a long muscle. That is not how it works, at least not from my understanding.
You just become like Mr. Stretch, and you're just like all gangly and long, but Fantastic
Four.
Yeah, so it wouldn't make sense. I was just thinking, like, physiologically, like if a muscle got longer, it would then not be able to, it just wouldn't work. Like your bones don't get longer and things like this. So I think, yeah, like you said, acutely, they get more flexible. They don't necessarily gonna get chronically longer or anything. So cool. Next question is from, how do you say that name actually?
He said it even in PS. My name is pretty fucking hard to pronounce for non-Portuguese speakers. It sounds closer to Zhao than Huao.
Zal. So we have João Pedro de Aquino. Hopefully I pronounced the rest right. That was kind of easier. About set point theory, is it more body fat or body weight dependent? I imagine that if it's more related to body weight, it would make sense to fluctuate between both ends of your settling range during bulk/cut cycles to facilitate long-term progress and maintenance of results.
I think, just to make it very short, I think it's body fat related, because otherwise, let's just imagine that you've started out your competitive career at 140 and you've been skinny fat. So you were carrying still around like 20% of body weight, right? And then you bulk up and all of a sudden you are 140 super diced, like 5% body fat. I don't think that you can still carry that year round. So probably not body weight dependent, but more so body fat dependent.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for it to be, they're going to be correlated somewhat, but it's body fat in terms of a lot of the, like what fat does. It produces leptin. That's a hunger kind of, it makes us not hungry. So the more body fat we have, the less hungry we're going to be, the less body fat, the more hungry we're going to be. And obviously there's more things involved than that, but that's just one of the ways it works, is like a bit of a kind of way to keep our body weight within a certain zone, or rather actually body fat. It's interesting. I think there might be other like settling points for maybe muscle and things like this. Maybe there's a range that your body likes having a certain amount of muscle, and past that, you're now having to push harder. It's interesting, but I think, yeah, body fat is when people are talking about settling points, it's body fat and not body weight. Cool. So, was that everything?
Yeah, we are at an hour.
Oh, so, perfect.
Yeah.
Didn't even realize. Plug time is actually
it is plug time.
The only thing I can think to initially plug, at least, is we still have some spots available for coaching if people are interested. Harry, at the moment, still has some spots available. He's got a couple of his first clients, and he's enjoying it a lot, and we want to get him nice and full. So if people are interested in kind of getting ahead of the curve in the new year, new me, then I definitely would look to apply. And we have some spots available for online coaching. Apart from that, I don't think there's too much else to plug.
No. I mean, Black Friday is still a little bit to go, but keep your eyes out for a little bit of exciting deals for you, of course. I mean, we are just a bunch of sheeps as well, and we want to ride the wave of Black Friday as well. So, yeah.
Sweet. Guys, Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you soon.
Cheers.